Welcome back to another UFC fight prediction video. In this video, I'll be predicting the prelim fights for UFC 252 Miocic versus Cormier 3. So without further ado, let's get to our first fight on the card and our first prelim fight. So in our first fight, we have in the heavyweight division, Herrig Gonzalez versus Isaac Villaneuva. So this fight is kind of weird in a way. You got two guys at heavyweight who probably could make middleweight, especially Villaneuva, who has fought at middleweight. I think that's when he, when he was really trying to be the best he could be, he was a middleweight. Now, I guess at one point he just started letting himself go, and I don't know. At this point, he just turned into a journeyman and just was happy with that and just fighting at heavyweight and just content with that. But in reality, his best chance of success or, improvement, well, I don't know. I guess he just realized he's not going to be a champion or be this or be that. Because right now, at heavyweight, he's clearly showing that's not like his goal is not to be the best or he can be. Because at heavyweight, he's like 5'10", 5'11", 6 feet barely, and definitely not 6'3" like they say on Sherdog. He's definitely not 6'3". By the way, at heavyweight, he's just not big at all. Got no muscles or nothing really to show for it, and got a big gut, and he's undersized. So like at heavyweight, you're not doing nothing for yourself there. Especially you just got beat by a guy who's probably on the lower end of the heavyweight division, like with Chase Sherman. And that's not what's knock on Chase Sherman, but it's the truth. He's on the lower end of the heavyweight division. So you losing to that guy, like I said, no knock on him. It's the truth. You're losing to him, then you should be like you're not getting cut. Then you should take the opportunity to go down in weight class and not stay up at heavyweight. But he's going against Herrig Gonzalez, a guy who I think is actually a middleweight as well. I think the fight that got him into the UFC was a middleweight fight, so I don't know why he's at heavyweight either. I guess they just didn't want to cut, or they just needed to make a fight. So, they fight in heavyweight division. So you got one guy who's like 6 feet tall, actually 6 feet tall, and you got one guy that's like listed at 6'3" on some sites, was actually like 5'11". But yeah, how I see this fight is neither of the guys have the best technique. I think Villaneuva actually has a little bit better technique and a little bit more power. But I think Gonzalez has been consistently fighting better competition over the past couple of years, with Villaneuva just been kind of fighting lower tier guys or guys he can, have a little bit more technique and he just know how to set them up and put a little bit of power on them and put them out of there. Whereas Herrig Gonzalez hasn't been testing himself. So like I said, I feel like Villanueva's technique is a little bit better and his power a little bit better. But I feel like I'm going to lean to the guy that's been fighting the more steady competition. Like his technique not be the best, but he's been out there. He's really been testing himself, and I'm going to favor that. And also, he ain't been lying about his height, so we're definitely going to lean to him in that one. So in a fight where I feel like it'd be 50-50, I'm going to lean to the guy who's been really trying out there and really been putting effort in there, especially fighting at the lower weight classes. So the speed going to be a little bit different. But I said defense is definitely kind of worrisome. Got a nice little kicks here and there to the legs and the body, but either way, I feel like it's a 50-50 fight. But I'm going to lean to the guy that's, like I said, really been putting effort in there and fighting the best competition he could face versus the guy who just been kind of fighting easy fights that he stylistically should have win. So I see it's a kind of slugfest here and there, like a lot of heavy hands been thrown and a lot of standing and banging. Could be a fun fight, could turn out to be the fight of the night. But I'm going to lean to Herrig Gonzalez to come out of the firefight with the victory. And I see him, matter of fact, I'm not going to say it's going to be swinging wild, but I don't think it's going to be a knockout, even though it's probably going to be the case. I'm going to lean to this being a wild slugfest that goes to a decision. So in this fight, I got Herrig Gonzalez via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the featherweight division, TJ Brown versus Daniel Chavez. So in this fight, you got two solid fighters, two talented fighters. I think Daniel Chavez has some amazing, not amazing, but he has some decent boxing, decent striking, and good well-rounded fighter, but definitely got some nice hands on him. You got TJ Brown on the other end. And he showed in his debut some good, a lot of hope and promise for him when he debuted and fought Jordan Griffin and was really dominating in grappling aspects. So I'm definitely leaning leaning clearly to TJ Brown in this one. To be able to do that against such a solid grappler and Griffin, this shows a lot. And then on your debut, and people really weren't expecting nothing, and he had to really come out and find a submission just to get the victory in that one. So that's really leaning heavily on me, and I think Daniel Chavez does have an opening in the grappling aspect, but I think TJ Brown can dominate in this fight. But nonetheless, I see Chavez not making an easy fight. I see it's a good scrappy fight, but TJ Brown been able to lean on to the wrestling to get some takedowns and be able to edge this one. I think, like I said, competitive fight, but I said that to be able to lean on and edge on that grappling and lean to that when you really need that to get that edge in the round. I think that's what TJ Brown's going to do. Like I said, competitive fight, definitely on the feet, but when TJ Brown needs to change it up and mix it up, he'll have that edge and he'll be able to, like I said, edge these rounds off the takedown, the grappling, the control. But in a competitive fight, he has that other avenue that allows him to get, the upper hand in the fight. So In this fight, I got TJ Brown via decision. Now to our next fight we have in the featherweight division, Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. So Herbert Burns is on the tear, his brother's on the tear, Gilbert Burns is on the tear. And it's just circling all throughout that formerly known as Black Zillion camp. I don't know what they called now. They've been called a lot of different things, but I'm still call them Black Zillions. But yeah, that whole gym right now is just on fire. Now Herbert Burns versus Daniel Pineda. Like, so he got that fire on him and on his team, and he's riding that into this fight versus Daniel Pineda. And it's a weird fight in a way, more so for Daniel Pineda. Like, cause his last fight, I think he's on a 2-fight winning streak. But in both those fights, they turned to no contest, and it was for some steroid. And now he's been allowed back to use. So guy literally for 2 fights in a row, both fights were turned to no contest because he tested positive for a steroid, and now he's been allowed back in the UFC. So I can see if I don't know, but like, would you not invite a guy back because he's felon for steroids? You guys get cut for that and banned for that? But that's definitely very interesting. Guy that's felon drug test, getting invited back to UFC, and the UFC is supposed to be so high on, oh, you did this or you did that, or you and we're hinted at taking this drug. We're going to ban you, we're going to do this, we're going to fine you, we're going to ruin your career, or, well, no, maybe it's not the UFC, but the commissions. By the way, it seems like that would be kind of weird. Why you're inviting a guy like this back to UFC? But to get to the point of this one, regardless of whether he's taking drugs or not, how I see this fight is Herb Burns has youth on his side. He has height on his side. I think he has like a 2-3 inch height advantage, and then he has a 2-3 inch reach advantage. I think Pineda is a little bit more confident. I mean, like a little bit more confident on the feet. I think feel like Burns is still coming into his own on his striking, but that by like no means means that Daniel Pineda is a better striker than Herbert Burns. I just feel like he on his feet, he has a little bit more power and he's a little bit more confident on the feet. Grappling wise, Herbert Burns is just in a different league than Pineda. Pineda definitely got like no slouch on the ground, definitely no slouch on the ground. But Herbert Burns is in a different league on the ground, in my opinion. It's in a different league in grappling. Now, I think with the length that Burns will have, the speed and the youth on his side, the reach on his side, I feel like he'll be able to close that gap, like any little bit of gap that Pineda has in the striking. I feel like Burns better close, be able to take advantage. I mean, close that gap with his height and his reach, and also his speed, and also the confidence that he's riding, and also the fact that he's been improving his striking. Even his last fight against Evan Dunham, his striking looked significantly improved. Like from every single fight to fight, his striking has been looking better and better. So I feel like he'll be able to hold more than hold his own with Pineda. Matter of fact, I think he'll be able to outstrike Pineda in this one, like using his reach, using his teeps, and this not really allowing Pineda to get inside to land those bombs or land that power or really have success. And also with the confidence that if this fight goes to the ground, and then Pineda might want to go to the ground or choose to go to the ground just because he's been feeling like he has some confidence on the ground or feeling like he's been finding success on the ground, it's all going to play to Herbert Burns to his wheelhouse or what he wants to happen in this fight. So I feel like Herbert Burns can outstrike him on the feet using, like, maintaining that distance. And if like Pineda gets in on the inside or tries to, just make a fight of it or tries to test his own ground game against Burns, I feel like all that's just going to play into, like I said, Burns picking apart from the outside. And when Pineda gets on the inside, whether to land shots or try to mix in his own takedowns, that's going to allow Burns really just going to open up the grappling. So whether Pineda initiates the grappling or Burns initiates the grappling, when Pineda tries to get on the inside, I feel like that's going to cause them to be a grappling exchanges where I think where Burns will find great success. So I feel like he picks them apart, like kind of like a little technical first round. They kind of fill out each other out. Second round, he starts to tag Pineda. Then Pineda starts to try to overreach. And I think with that, Burns starts to duck under, get some takedowns. Then in the third round, after tagging him up, I think he goes for the takedown of his own, gets Pineda down on the ground and pounds, and submits him in that third round. So in this fight, I got Herbert Burns via third round submission. Now to our next fight we have in the women's strawweight division, Felice Herrig versus Verna Jandiroba. And this one right here, I see the fight that's pretty even right here. You got, matter of fact, I actually think Herrig got a slight edge as far as overall. You got two fighters that have some decent solid grappling, both physically strong. I think only Jandiroba striking is all that. She's definitely a fighter out there. She's gonna push a good pace, and she's gonna make you work. She's gonna be like she's just out there. The whole time she's out there, she's a problem. Like, she's a problem fighter. Her striking isn't the best or isn't the greatest, but she has a presence. Like, she's gonna, and at every point in this fight, no matter who she's in there with, when she's out there fighting, unless you finish her, which I haven't seen her finish, she's gonna be making you work, and she's gonna be working and like on you the whole time of the fight. I feel like Herrig is definitely a more technical striker, but I feel like the layoff and the injuries is going to play a factor. So I feel like they're both physically strong fighters with some solid grappling. I think Herrig got the edge in striking, but I think Jandiroba got the edge in size, and she's been fresher. I mean, she's been active, and Herrig has not. And I feel like at this point, when you haven't been active in like a year, 2 years now, then Jandiroba having that intensity that she has, and both of them have similar styles or at least similar strengths, I feel like that's gonna come to the fact. I feel like Jandiroba is just really gonna be able to outwork Herrig and probably be able to outmuscle her in some of these situations, like saying to drain on her, and win a gritty type of decision. Like there's gonna be a lot of working, but usually that favors the active fighter, unless Herrig just had the most phenomenal camp or the phenomenal this. And Herrig, like, let me say nothing about compliment about Herrig. Like, she's one of the hardest workers, period, man or woman. She works out hard. She trains hard. She's in the gym grinding 365. So even though I say she hasn't been active, but she's still going to be in good shape. I feel like no matter how hard you train, it can't really replace real action. And Jandiroba has that right now, or Jandiroba has that right now, and Herrig doesn't. So I'm going to lean to Jandiroba to get the decision in a gritty decision with a lot of takedowns, a lot of striking, a lot of digging deep. I feel like Jandiroba just going to have it. Like I said, she's been active and Herrig has not. So in this fight, I got Verna Jandiroba via decision. Now on to our next fight we have in the heavyweight division, Chris Daukaus versus Parker Porter. So let me say one thing around this fight, right? You got like the 6'3" Daukaus versus the 6 feet Porter. And Daukaus is the brother of another fight. I think his name like Cal Daukaus, whatever case. I'm forgetting his name right now, and I know you're going to look it up. But yeah, the middleweight, he had a good debut. Even though he lost, he fought a very promising prospect in the middleweight division. And it was a nail-biting, close fight, even though he got dominated in the first round. Second and third on were very, very competitive. But yeah. So look at this fight right here. Let me mention I mentioned the brother because, you know, you try to to connect like, oh, his brother is in the UFC. You know, he's 0-1. He looked very solid, so his older brother should look better too. But to say that as many as there are a couple good brother dynamics in the UFC or have been in the UFC, for every good dynamic where both brothers find success, there are at least 10 other brother dynamics where either one is just good or neither are good. So in a lot of cases, it's like one brother's good, another not good, or not as good, or not nearly as good. Or as many brother dynamics where neither guy just aren't good. So just by being his brother or even training with somebody or doing this and that don't mean you're good. And Chris Daukaus isn't bad, but look at his fight, how his style, like compared to Parker Porter, and look at his resume. His resume is not the best. Most guys he beat are like 500 or below and have barely any MMA experience. Anytime he fight anybody that has any credibility, he gets like knocked out or finished or loses. So kind of questionable track record. Look at his style. And let's be honest with both. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with both of these guys. I only seen fights that 4 years ago. With Chris Daukaus, like he kind of tries to fight like a smaller guy, you know, like 6'4" and kind of fat and kind of chunky and kind of slow. Like he tries to fight like a smaller guy. Like it'll be working for him a little bit, especially like on the lower tier guys they be fighting. Like he tries to like fight high on his toes and try to do little teeth and stuff and try to do these little switch stance overhands, but they be kind of slow. Sometimes he slip and fall on his face. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but like one time I think he did try to do a little overhand. He fell and the guy just took his back for a second. But they were both just so low tier in their their skills that he just was able to get back to his feet. But it was like very sloppy, fell in slow motion when he tried to do something that lighter people do. But yeah, so a big guy that tries to fight, you know, try to implement lifestyles. Maybe he just focused on the pure fundamentals and stuff, which work at all weight classes instead of trying to be like take lightweight stuff. I mean, or smaller weight class stuff and use that heavyweight when it's not really, he don't really have the athleticism to use it. I think he'd do much better. Now let me go to Parker Porter. Parker Porter, what worries me about him is that he got knocked out in 30 seconds by John Jones. And this guy has been around the MMA game for a long time, but he's like 10-5. So he fought John Jones like years back, like when John Jones was just coming up. I think John Jones like fourth fight or something, and it was like his second or third fight, and he got one punch knocked out by John Jones. So in like 30 seconds. So that's very worrisome for a heavyweight to be getting knocked out, one punch knocked out by John Jones of all people. But other than that, when I look at Parker Porter versus Gonzaga, which was like 10, 100 years ago, one thing I like about him is he has decent fundamentals. He always does good solid combinations. I think one person said like one little prediction person say he fights like Roy Nelson, but when looking at him fight, he fight nothing like Roy Nelson. Roy Nelson be loaded up on that overhand and be going for the money all the time. That guy, Parker Porter, actually does combinations, so definitely not Roy Nelson at all. Only thing that you could say probably would be better if he used a little bit more angles and he ended his combination with a jab. But he fights pretty textbook as far as his hands goes. And like I said, I choose textbook over somebody trying to fight like a smaller weight class guy. And he actually fought decent competition. Like he looked good against Gonzaga. I think he actually was beating Gonzaga when he fought him until Gonzaga just caught him like an overhand and then got him to the ground, like dropped him and then submitted him. But so he fought high level competition and actually did look pretty well and looked like he belonged there. Whereas Chris Daukaus, every time he fought somebody decent, he gets finished. So, and also about technique wise, Parker Porter's technique is cleaner. He chains punches together much smoother, much faster. And like I said, he just looks more of the part of a UFC caliber heavyweight. Does he look like he can stick around? Not really, but look like he at least can hold his own with maybe some of the lower tier. Whereas Chris Daukaus, like he probably needs to step up his competition outside the UFC before he even comes up into the UFC. Matter of fact, he has to find success against decent competition outside the UFC before he comes to UFC. Because outside the UFC, he's really been can crushing. And every time he fought anybody decent, and even guy like UFC rejects, he gets stopped. So I don't know. I can't really lean behind Daukaus. So like what I see is like pretty much Parker Porter, the cleaner, more proven heavyweight, whereas Daukaus more so just kind of leaning on a lot of factors that don't really mean anything. So I see this fight. I just feel like Parker Porter just outstrikes him, lands the cleaner shots, then eventually tags him and puts him out in the second round. So in this fight, I got Parker Porter via second round TKO. Now to our co-prelim headliner, we have in the women's strawweight division, Ashley Yoder versus Livia Renata Souza. So look at this fight right here. This is actually an interesting one right here because Renata Souza, like, you kind of give her a high praise or at least give her like some respect that I don't think she really earned this as far as in the UFC. Like, she was the Invicta champion, but as far as in the UFC, I think she fought like Ashley Chambers and she fought, who else she fought? Pretty much she really just beat a bunch of competition that really wasn't the best as far as in the UFC, and she hasn't been tested the best. You look at Ashley Yoder and you kind of don't give her as much respect because I think she didn't do the best on the Ultimate Fighter. And I think one fight she was kind of gifted a decision in the Ultimate Fighter, and even her being in the UFC was kind of gifted. When we look at the competition in UFC, like she's fought, it was no gifts at all. Like she fought Angela Hill, not a gift, and it was a very tough fight. She fought Mackenzie Dern, very tough fight, and not a gift. That's a fight that you kind of getting fed to these people. Like maybe not the Angela Hill fight as much, but definitely with Mackenzie Dern, that was like you almost getting fed to her because they want you to go out there and just give Mackenzie Dern a win. But she did not give Mackenzie Dern a easy fight. It was a very tough fight, and she held her own with Mackenzie Dern in like every facet of the fight. And then also she fought Randa Marcos and gave her a hard fight. So she's been in some hard fights. She never gave anybody no easy fights. And then she had some good wins in the UFC. And yeah, so when I look at Souza, she had the easier route. And look at Yoder, her takedown defense and grappling is actually pretty solid. And when I see Souza's best chance is get it to the ground. And Yoder has solid wrestling and solid wrestling defense and wrestling offense. And on the feet, Souza really hasn't been showing much on the feet either. Now Yoder, I think, will have like a 3-inch reach advantage and like a 4, like she'll have like a 3-inch reach advantage, like a 3-inch height advantage. And when you like striking, the striking is about even. When you get like any bit of reach or height, any bit of reach or height becomes very significant. So she got a significant reach and significant height advantage over Souza. And she's been fighting the much better competition between the two. Like Souza, you can say, oh, she did and show that, but she lost to Angela Hill, and it wasn't nearly as competitive as the fight Yoder had with Angela Hill. If you put her the same competition, she would lose to the same competition the same way Yoder did, if not worse. So I just feel like with the height, the reach, and the takedown defense, and also the takedown offense, I think she'll be able to use that height and reach to outstrike Souza and like keep the fight on the feet, or keep it where she wants to keep it, or at least be able to keep it close enough that she'll be able to edge the fight with her striking. So in this fight, I have Ashley Yoder via decision. Now to our prelim headliner, we have in the lightweight division, Jim Miller versus Vince Pichel. Like Vince from Hell or Give Him Hell Pichel or whatever he wants to be called. He probably don't use that no more. He probably was using that when he was on the Tough Live. But yeah, looking at Vince Pichel versus Jim Miller. Most surprising about me on this fight right here is that Vince Pichel is actually 1 year older than Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller like 35 and Vince Pichel like 36, or it's like 36 and 37. Even though Jim Miller has accomplished so much and Vince Pichel really hasn't even lived close up to his potential. I'm not saying Pichel has so much potential, but he could definitely have been around a lot more. I don't know with injuries or other things, and I'm not even going to look into that, but definitely Vince Pichel has not been as active as he could have been over these past couple of years. Like, am I saying he would have so much success in the UFC? No, but I'm thinking he probably could have been stuck around and probably had a good little runs here or there. Maybe no one runs to no title or nothing, but like some runs to the middle of the pack of the division and kind of stayed there and yeah, been like a decent level gatekeeper. No insult, but that's just how I see it. But Jim Miller versus Vince Pichel. When I see his fight, Vince Pichel, he got some good strength to him. Takedown defense, I think, like I try to assume he has some decent takedown defense, but when you really think about it, he's the guy that got suplexed to sleep by Rustam Khabilov, and I think in Khabilov's debut, he got just wrestled and just relentlessly wrestled until he just had no energy left by Gregor Gillespie. Like Gillespie just put a wrestling masterclass on him. And I think his takedown defense ratio is at like 29%. But those are against solid Sambo/wrestlers. Jim Miller is not a wrestler, but I think this new Jim Miller, like he's been sick and dealing with injuries, and now he's looking fresh and rejuvenated and a lot stronger. I'm not saying like I said, Jim Miller is like, it's not a clear path that Jim Miller is going to be to easily wrestle him as these other people have wrestled him. But so far, Vince Pichel, when people wanted to wrestle him, they have not had the biggest issue. I think on the feet, like when you go very broad with this one, on the feet, it's not the biggest gap. Like you could say, oh, Jim Miller has fought better strikers and has held on his own with them, whereas Vince Pichel hasn't really fought no one. They both share the same last opponent in Daniel Roberts, but in Roosevelt Roberts, they share the same last opponent. Jim Miller got a finish, Vince Pichel got a decision victory. But other than that, Jim Miller definitely over his career has fought much better competition. He literally was up there fighting the future champions and past champions and current champions and all that stuff in the past over his career, whereas Vince Pichel has never reached that peak. He never reached even close. But how I would see is like Jim Miller, the striking between the two is like, it could go either way. But grappling wise, Jim Miller is clearly the better grappler. And I feel like with his rejuvenation of his like health and his motivation, he's definitely in a better point in his career right now. Or at least you give him his past and experience and his skill set and like having that edge and clear edge in grappling when the striking can lean either way. You're going to lean to the guy who has the edge. And I like always say that. Who has the true edge is Jim Miller. So how I see this fight going is I see Jim Miller like threatening with his grappling, which will open up his striking. So he's pressuring, open up his striking, then threatening with the takedown, which will make Vince Pichel respecting Jim Miller's grappling and respecting the fact that every time grappling is enforced on Pichel, it doesn't end very well for him. So he's gonna be trying to overcommit to the defense, which is gonna open him up over the top. Jim Miller starts to crack him over the top, rocks him in that second round, and then taps him out in that second round. So in this fight, I got Jim Miller via second round submission. And that concludes my fight predictions for the prelims of UFC 252, Miocic versus Cormier 3. And as always, thanks for watching.